Hey guys, Kevin gives me another movie for guys. Now, this movie we're reviewing, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I usually say, oh, I had a lot of interest in this movie that I really wanted to see it. I honestly didn't really have any interest in this movie whatsoever. I never really thought this looked like that good of a movie. But I figured I'd finally check it out. I was gonna skip it, mainly because it's a movie that came out at the end of August when there's really nothing good coming out, and I finally checked it out. That movie is No Escape. I watched it, just came out a Solar movie, figured I'd watch it, and it just really seemed like a movie that didn't really have much care put into it, and that they didn't really care too much about it. But I have to say that after watching it, No Escape, honestly, I think is one of the more surprising movies of this year. I honestly really loved No Escape. I think it has some of the best uses of suspense and a really, really tense story that I felt was actually very important for today. And I will get into that, but overall, I think No Escape is one of the better thrillers I've seen this year by far. But let's get to the plot of No Escape, which I think is a really great plot, and I didn't know too much going into it because I stayed away from like reviews and things like that because I just didn't care too much, and I'm kind of happy I did that because I didn't actually know the real plot of this movie. Basically, it's a pretty simple story. We have this family, they're going on vacation to Asia. Their father is this engine. The father, played by Owen Wilson, is this engineer. He's trying to he's basically trying to relocate and start a new career with an American engineering firm. However, one day when he is looking for a newspaper in English, he slowly starts to realize that this country that they're in is actually at war with all the Americans, and that they are after them, and and he has to do whatever he can to get to get his family the hell out of there, get them safely home, and find a way to escape from this war zone. That basically is the plot of No Escape, and I think it's an awesome plot. It's a very simple plot, and there's a lot to this movie that I think was very, very good, that I really enjoyed. So yeah, like I said, that's not really what I thought the plot of this movie. I thought it looked really stupid and really cheesy, but it's actually really not. Something I noticed right off the bat is the acting. The acting in this movie, I think, was actually very, very good, and I think everyone really did a very good job. Owen Wilson, I was very worried about. I've never seen him as an action star. It didn't really seem like I would be able to take him seriously in this movie. But you know what? He did an excellent job, and I really bought him as this character of Jack Dwyer. Something I really loved about his character is that I really feel he encompasses what a great action hero should be. You don't need a Terminator. You don't need an Indiana Jones. You just need a guy that is in a situation where he's trying to save someone, he does something selfless. And that's exactly what Jack Dwyer does. Once he finds out what the situation is, he does whatever he can to help out his family, and he did a very good job with that. He was also very, very emotional. You could tell how much this was affecting him, and I think just he was very, very thrilling throughout the movie. He had some really incredible scenes, and he also was very funny. There were some scenes where he required to be funny, and of course, he did a very good job with that. But I thought, for the most part, he did a very good job, and this, honestly, I think is one of Owen Wilson's best performances, honestly. He did a very good job, and I'd really love to see him do more action movies in the future, because he was very good here. Lake Bell as well, I also was very impressed by. I think she also did a very good job as Annie. You know, she pretty much is the typical wife who is trying not to freak out over this situation and is trying to do whatever she can to remain calm when it's not easy to do. And I think she did a very good job with that as well. She had some of the more thrilling scenes in the movie, and the two of them as a couple, you really buy them as this couple. They both did a very good job, and I think they had some very good chemistry, and you really saw how much they cared for one another. But I think the real emotional core of this movie are the kids. Sterling Gearens and Claire Gear, I thought were both great as their daughters Lucy and Bees, mainly because they represent the innocence in this movie. You know, the most compelling scenario that these two go through is, how the hell do we tell our children that we're in the middle of a war zone? How do you do that? There isn't a way, because to a kid, they are not going to understand what you're doing. You don't want them to freak out, obviously. You want them to stay calm, but it just doesn't seem like that's going to work. And I like seeing them play with that scenario. I think both kids did a very good job, and you could see how they didn't want to believe something was wrong. They just wanted to stay there. They didn't really fully understand what was going on. I think that's a very realistic way they portrayed it, and the way they did that I thought was very well done. I definitely really enjoyed that, and probably the movie wouldn't be as emotional and effective as it was if it hadn't been for these two kids, and I think they both did a very good job at just playing innocence. Are they the best actresses ever? No, no. I think there were some times when they got a bit annoying, but I think for the most part they did a very good job, and I definitely really enjoyed them. Now, my only problem with this movie in terms of acting is Pierce Brosnan. Look, he's a very good actor, and what he does in this movie he has a very good job with, but he's really not in the movie that much. He's in it every now and again. He pops up a few times during the movie, but his character never really had something to do, and I thought he was going to have more to do in the movie when he really didn't. But for what he did, I think he did a good job. It didn't disappoint me too much because I really wasn't looking forward to the movie, as I said. I think for what he did a good job, but I wish his character just would have had maybe just a little bit more to do. Not a lot more, but just at least a little bit more, because they never really had a lot to do with his character, but I think for what he did, he was really good. So overall, the acting, I was very, very impressed by. I think everyone, for the most part, really did a great job, like I said. The directing here as well, I thought was very well handled. I think the director, first thing I noticed with this movie is once we understand what's going on with this war, there is constant tension and suspense throughout this movie, and it's genuine. I mean, I was on the edge of my seat several times throughout this movie, and I could not believe how, into this movie I was, and I think it's just because of the directing. It's very, very suspenseful, and it's very tense, and it's really this non-stop thrill ride, and you're worried about this family the whole time. There's some great emotion to it, and I think the directing was absolutely fantastic. Really great directing. I think they did a very good job with it, and I definitely really enjoyed that. The writing here as well, I thought was maybe one of the best screenplays of the year, mainly because of the way this scenario was portrayed. This could have been portrayed in a very cheesy way, but it's really not. It's a very realistically portrayed story, and the characters themselves, the way they handle this situation is a pretty realistic way that they handle it. At first they're just trying to leave the hotel room and trying to find a way out, but eventually they realize that they're just kind of caught up in all this, and I think it's very interesting the way they portrayed that, and the characters I thought all did a very good job of that. That's something I really enjoyed seeing. And that's something I thought was really good. And this is really a movie where you don't know what's going to happen next. I honestly was like, I don't know how this movie's going to end. And I'm surprised by that because it really seemed like a very predictable movie, but it really wasn't at all. I didn't know what was going to happen. I thought I didn't know if all the characters were going to die, if they were going to get out safely. And that's something I thought they handled very well, was not really knowing what was going to happen next. I think this is also a movie where you really put yourself in the shoes of these characters. You really think, any family, really, not just a family with two daughters, but just any family in general. If you were in this scenario, how would you handle it? I think it's very interesting the way they showed that in this movie. That's something that was very well done. I definitely really enjoyed it, and I thought they handled that very, very well. And it's mainly because this probably has happened to other families, because I think they really showed why this story is important. Why is this story important? The story is also very, very controversial. A lot of people are complaining that they don't really show what's really going on, but I think they handle it in a pretty realistic way, because there are countries in this world that are essentially war zones. They're complete war zones. I mean, think of Iraq, places that have had, places that are at war, things like that. Just think of any country. There are countries that are at war zones, and while America isn't really at a war, there are people in war. There are countries in war zones. There are countries that are war zones. I thought they portrayed that in a very, very realistic way and showed why the story was important. I think it's something that could actually happen if some of the events were altered. And that really brings me into my biggest complaint with the film. I don't really have too much of a complaint, honestly. Like I said, some people have complained that this film doesn't really give Asia a voice. That's not my complaint with the film. I honestly didn't have a complaint with that, because I took it as the world's at war. People just don't give a shit anymore. They're gonna try to kill any American they see, no matter who they are. They don't care what they look like. And I also didn't really find the film that racist at all, and I felt it portrayed it in a pretty good way. It seemed very like, okay, this is the scenario. It's really this bad. You have to get out of there. I didn't find it as they needed to show really what Asia's vision of it was. really my only complaint with the film is that I felt there were a few scenes that were a bit unrealistic and did go a bit over the top, especially towards the third act. There are some things I felt were a bit kind of like it was Hollywoodized. And I was fine with that, but it kind of got rid of the realistic tone of this first two halves of this movie. But I thought I was still into it. I was into it because I cared about this family. I cared about what's going to happen to them. I cared about the characters. My only other complaint, like I said, is that there are some characters that are a bit underused, like Pierce Brosnan, really ended up being very underused. Other than that, I honestly really had no problems whatsoever with this film. The cinematography also is amazing to look at. It looks fantastic. It really looks like they just took a country that was at war and just put them into that country. And I don't know if they actually did that, but it really seemed like this country really was at war. And I don't know if Southeast Asia really is at war. I honestly don't know, but it really seemed like they were at war, and I think they did a very good job with that, and the cinematography was just gorgeous to look at, and they portrayed it perfectly. The score was also very suspenseful and very tense and really went with that tone. And the editing as well, I thought was also very, very good. The movie really flew by for me. I was surprised by how into it I was. I was into it the whole time. There was that one point where I'm like, oh, this is dragging on. I'm not really into it. This is kind of boring. No, there was no point like that. I was really into this movie the whole time, and I was surprised by how into it I was. And it's 100 minutes. I felt it really didn't need to be any longer than it was the exact length it needed to be. And the ending I thought was also very sweet. I really did like the ending of this movie. I thought the ending was pretty unpredictable, and I really liked the way it turned out. Like I said, the climax was a bit unrealistic, but it was still really thrilling. I did not know. There was one scene where I really did not know what was going to happen, and I definitely thought they portrayed it very well, and I definitely really enjoyed it. So overall, guys, No Escape is honestly one of the biggest surprises of the year. I did not, think I was going to love this movie nearly as much as I did, but I really, really enjoyed it. Aside from those few problems, I can kind of, just put those aside and enjoy the movie regardless because of how much I was into it. Even though I had those problems with the movie being unrealistic, I can just put those aside and not worry, not think about it as much because I thought the movie was very impactful and really showed why this was important. And I think everyone else did a really good job. And honestly, maybe it's just because we haven't really had a lot of really good thrillers, but I just really enjoyed the movie overall. And I think it's a movie that definitely you guys check out. And if I had to rate No Escape, I would give it a 4 out of 5 or a B+. I think this is one of the best thrillers I've seen all year. I think it's one of the better movies to see in theaters, and especially for a movie at the end of August, really mattered a lot more, and I think showed had a lot more care put into it than I thought it even needed to, and was a lot better than it should have been. I was very impressed by that. But overall, guys, this is my review, No Escape. Hope you guys enjoyed them. Note you guys saw this movie, you have seen it. I honestly would recommend this movie. I think if you want to see a really thrilling movie in theaters and you want some really thrilling action, check it out. It's very thrilling, and it's very non-stop action, and it's a very important issue. And I think it really shows why this story is important. That's based on my review. Hope you guys enjoy it, and I will see you guys in my next one, which will be for another movie review, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.